Hey YouTube, I am back with another equipment review. This time the Syedee dip machine. Maybe you've seen this thing pop up on your Instagram feed. Maybe you've seen it on Amazon. There really aren't a lot of reviews out there right now about this line of equipment, which leads me to believe that it's fairly new, new to market, probably in the last 2, 3, 4 months or so. And also, unlike professional reviewers like Brandon and Coop from all the home gym sites, I have to carry a sheet of paper with me. My memory just isn't what it used to be. So, um, Syedee. So, if you've purchased products off of Amazon in the past, I'm going to be conservative, 5 years, you've probably noticed some brands that that you recognize, the Cottonelles, the Arm& Hammers, the Kleenexes, whatever. But you probably also noticed a lot of products that are like all caps and all nonsense words, like Kelati and Boonjo, and words that don't mean anything, they don't make any sense. They have the same stock photos. All of there's 20 different products that are all basically identical. These are all just Chinese companies that have set up storefronts and are selling direct to consumer instead of going through, drop shippers and all of that stuff. The middlemen who are buying this stuff in bulk off of AliExpress, however you say it, and then just selling through their own storefront. Same thing here. There's also, I think it's GMWD. That's another new one. The product line looks identical to this, or almost identical. There's also one called Spart, all caps, same thing. When you go to Syedee's website, you'll notice there's a fair number of misspellings. Some of their like legal documentation, terms of service documentation, and the phrasing on those pages, it's just copied and pasted from other sites. You can go out there, copy a line, put it into Google, and you'll go, oh, they just took it from this other site. Same thing with TrueLab. I think Coop from Garage Gym Reviews just did a review a month or so ago on TrueLab. And up until very recently, the address that they had on their site was directly to a shipping container, or excuse me, a self-storage unit. Not like a warehouse, but like an act like where you can go purchase for like $30 a month or however much it is to go store your stuff. So literally just a North American front for a Chinese company. That said, we've all probably ordered a dozen or dozens of different products from Amazon that are no different than this. So that's not a dig against it at all. But I think if maybe you're a little hesitant to buy a product like that seems a little bit shady like this, just remember we've all probably bought, every phone case, phone stand, clock, whatever, you name it. You jump on Amazon, there's like a 75-80% chance that you've bought a few dozen products from companies exactly like this. So up until now, there's really only been one option for a home gym dip machine, short of paying $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for selectorized weight stacks, and that's been the Titan plate-loaded dip machine, which I will compare this to in a minute. Now that this one's out, I want to compare them both, but I also want to do a quick, I'm obviously not into brevity, but a quick-ish rundown of this machine. As of this video, it is $230 on Amazon, and I got a $30 credit, so it came out to $200 flat. It's hard to beat that. But let's get into it and see if it's worth the price. Get into the pros. So the first pro, as you'll notice, these flat handles here. They're more ergonomic for your palm, And if you've ever worked out at commercial gyms and whatnot, you've probably maybe seen a machine very similar to this. The handle would be a little more ergonomic than this, but it's the same principle. It's designed to have more surface contact with your hand on your palm, so it feels more natural when you're pushing down. A second pro of this machine is it flips inside and out. So outside is for hitting your chest or primarily targeting your chest. Inside, primarily targeting your triceps. That's really neat. You don't have to do, any leaning. You don't have to, you don't have to position yourself in any particular way to be able to go, all right, now I'm hitting my chest. You just flip it out, boom, you're done. So that's really nice. I would say the other pretty neat thing that they have going on here, well, I don't know if it's neat, but they have these foot plates right here. And so in between those plates, there's a little place to hook like a carabiner. And you can, they advertise this as something that you can do curls on. I don't know why somebody would, but I guess you could. But they have these little foot plates here so that you can stand on that without worrying about the machine flipping up every time you're doing a heavy curl. So I'm guessing what they did is they probably bought the Titan machine, or they just have one in their factory because maybe it's produced in the same factory, and they said, hey, here's a few things that we would do different to make ours a little bit better. So if you plan to do curls on this thing, those foot plates will come in handy. Another thing that I really like about this machine, or not really like, but I think it's kind of interesting, is the stopper has 4 different positions. So if you're taller, you can have that thing further down so that you're not having to, pull your arms all the way up, basically shrugging your shoulders all the way up. You can raise it up if you're a little bit shorter, like me. So it just puts you in a little bit more of a natural position, natural starting position. All right, let's talk about some of the cons of this machine. This is obviously a version 1. I'm really hoping they come out with a version 2 at some point. Syedee, by the way, if you come out with a version 2, please feel free to send me a machine to review. I'll be happy to, especially if you fix some of these little quirks. But the first one is the distance or the gap between these 2 pads here. It's just a little bit too far. It should be, I'm going to say, 2 inches closer to this seat right here. And the reason being, when I sit down, if I'm all the way back, it feels more like I'm pushing out than down. But if I come forward just a little bit, now I'm pushing down. This is something that could be corrected by just putting like a back pad against this or something like that. You could even stuff like a rolled up yoga mat, a pillow. It's a little bit MacGyver-ish, if you will. I would prefer to not have to do that. So Syedee, if you're going to make a version 2, please bring this in or allow this seat to adjust back and forth. Have like a pop pin so that you can pull it in 3-4 different increments, whatever. That way you're accommodating much taller, lankier lifters, or maybe not lanky, but people with longer appendages. And you're also accommodating, short guys with stubby appendages like me. Another con, I guess, is this material. If you've bought gym equipment for years, if you bought gym equipment 5, 6, 7 years ago, this is that smooth material that you would get on machines, that you would get on benches. It's not that newer material that Titan, Rep, and Rogue are using. That grippy material, that thicker material that's real nice. This is just the old school smooth material. It's not the end of the world because it's basically a single function dip machine. So you're not benching on this thing every single day. I think it'll hold up over time. It's just a little detail that I think would go a little. I think it would go a little way to show that they're putting out something of higher quality. Um, Another con are these sleeves, and this is more of a minor gripe than anything. But the sleeves are plastic, and basically these sleeves, they fit on there. If you've bought like a Valor fitness machine, um, you know that they'll come or typically, at least back in the day, they came standard with standard size sleeves for standard size plates, and then you could put an adapter on there for Olympic size plates. This could be me just not familiar with the market, but like it's not the 80s and 90s. Are people really buying standard size plates anymore? I feel like Olympic size is kind of uh, the vast majority of what people are buying, especially with how home gyms have blown up over the past 10, 15 years. That said, I said it's a minor gripe because you can use a hex wrench to like really wrench those things down. They're not going to go anywhere. It's kind of the same thing as this material. Um, it would just make the machine a little bit higher quality if they came um, metal, powder coated. I think that would be really nice. Another minor gripe is this unit bolts on. It's just a little bit more of a pain in the ass. It's not the end of the world, but if it came as one unit, that would be ideal in my opinion. Um, it's more structurally sound. It's less of a pain to deal with. But like I said, it's a minor gripe. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, especially if they're saving on shipping costs by having it ship in separate, um, having it ship in smaller boxes, easier packaging. Um, Another thing that I would probably consider to be I don't know if I'd call this a con so much as an opportunity for improvement, as we say in corporate. You can see that there's this little screw with a little sleeve. I think they call it a sleeve or a collar, but basically what you do is you get for this step in the instructions, you're gonna get a screw. You're gonna get this little basically sleeve, and the instructions aren't terribly clear. You're all smart people. You would figure this out, but you just really cram that collar on there so that it's the screw top, the collar, and then there's a little bit of screw hanging out at the bottom, and that's what screws into a hole on this handle here. Um, what would be nice is to have, I don't know, two, three, maybe four different cutouts on this handle. That way you could bring the handle further back, or further out, once again, to accommodate different size lifters. I'm a short guy, so because this gap is so big, if I had the opportunity to bring these in closer to the machine, I think that would alleviate some of the leverage concerns. And it's not the end of the day. I'm kind of overblowing this more than it needs to be, but that is something that I've noticed would be helpful if they could just put two, three different holes in these handles. Um, the only other con I can think of, and this one's actually kind of legitimate, is these plates. Actually, you can see here, I pushed that, I did whatever this was. Oh yeah, look at that, I'm just tapping it. That plate is sliding down. So I have put a level on this area. I know that this area is level, so it's quite annoying that I have to put a collar on this thing. I actually had to do the exact same thing with the Titan machine. So the fact that this area is level and I just got two bump machines kind of sucks. One other con I had totally forgot about. Right here. Come on, focus. This bolt sticks out and it hits my plate, which means that the plate can't sit 100% flush. Whoops. Can't sit 100% flush against the, I guess against the center piece of the mount. So a minute ago when I was talking about how this should come as one piece, that's what I'm talking about. If this all came as one piece, there wouldn't be any need to have bolts there. I think I call it a screw, it's a bolt. I don't like the idea that the bolt is rubbing into my urethane coated plate. You know, those things aren't terribly cheap, but overall, I would say these are kind of minor gripes that they seem like quite easy fixes. So if Syedee goes back to the drawing board, makes a couple of quick quirks to this thing, quick fixes rather, I think this would be a really, really solid machine. Assembly on this thing was 25 minutes, I think. Let me move this back a little bit. Yeah, assembly on this was 25 minutes. They did use different size bolts. I know whenever you get a machine, you're going to get different size bolts. When you put together a rack, different size bolts. But a lot of these points of articulation are so similar that it just seems kind of odd that they chose to use different size bolts for them. Like the bolts down there are different than the bolts that hook into over here. And they're different than the bolts that hook in right there. Not a big deal. You only put these machines together one time, typically, unless you're moving. It's just like, it's not a big deal. It does not affect the performance of the machine. But I just noticed, like, okay, is this a 21 or a 23? Is this a 19? It was a little annoying, but like I said, 25 minutes of my life to put together a full dip machine. Who cares, right? All said and done, I'll give you my final thoughts on this before going over to the Titan dip machine and showing you that. The flippable handles, the flat handles, I think that and I guess the little flat plates on the back that you can stand on, but strictly from a dip machine standpoint, the handles alone, I think, make this a better option than the Titan machine. Structurally, it's all bolted together. It seems sound. The welds seem fine. I'm not a welder, so I'm not one to really, judge welds. I mean, some of them leave a little bit to be desired, but it's one thing if these welds were on a bench that's supporting my weight and I have weight above me. That's a different story. But if I'm just using this as a lever, basically to push down, to do bodybuilding dips, perfectly fine. This is perfectly fine. I think it's going to hold up. At $200, I mean, that's a hell of a value. So yeah, if you've been wondering about whether or not this machine is worth picking up, even with the slight quirk around the leverages for a shorter person, still solid machine. I absolutely recommend this over the Titan. Speaking of which, let's go talk about the Titan. Okay, here is the Titan dip machine. As you can see, it's almost identical in terms of actual design. The same Y frame. It's got the angled stopper. It's got the upright back. Now the distance between this seat here is ideal. It's the distance that the Syedee machine should be, so it works very well for a shorter lifter. Another thing is, this whole piece right here is kind of a tacky, plasticky, not plastic, it's like a rubbery plastic. I'm not a materials engineer, so I don't know what the hell it is, but it kind of feels like a rubber. Um, but this allows you to put your hand anywhere on the handle. So if you're taller, you're probably reaching up closer to the top. If you're shorter, maybe you're reaching towards the back. As you can see, this is all one unit, so there's no bolts here to worry about your plates hitting. Same material as Titan used to use on their machines. I don't think they've upgraded this machine, so I think it's basically what you see here is what you get. These handles do not flip in and out, so you have to do the leaning or pushing yourself back. This back stopper does not adjust, so you're kind of just left with one position, not the end of the world. These handles are obviously just cylindrical handles. They don't have the palm position. That is kind of a pro and a con. The palm position I always felt like really hit my triceps better than having my hand in this position versus that position. I just felt a bigger pump in my triceps. But also you can choose where your hand goes as opposed to the other one. Like I mentioned a minute ago, if they had different holes on the handles, you could adjust them. But right now it's a one size fits all. The biggest problem I have with this machine though is just like all Titan equipment, you never know what you're gonna get. Maybe it shows up in perfect condition. Maybe it shows up. This one, however, it's just a little off kilter, just a hair, just enough that whenever I'm doing this, let me back this up a little bit. Yeah, so whenever I'm doing this and I'm doing dips, I kind of have to lean just a little bit to the left. Otherwise, my right arm is doing all of the work because the frame is just kind of tilted. If you're doing a bodybuilding exercise, if you're going to failure, the last thing you want to have to worry about is, oh, am I leaning far enough to the left to accommodate the weight distribution? It's just poor QA. So if you've ordered from Titan before, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes their machines come tip top, other times not so much. This is still a fine machine. I think I'm one of the few people that have had that frame issue with this. So if you're concerned about, how short you are, how tall you are, if there's something about the Syedee machine that just didn't sit well with you, this is a perfectly fine machine. I've been using it for 2 years. It works well. But like I said, if there was a way for Syedee to combine the positive features of this, which is really just this singular frame, barring the handles, there would be no reason to ever buy this. But yeah, as you can see, it's basically an identical frame for all intents and purposes. So this machine here, while I had a few different gripes about it, all said and done, this thing's solid. I'm glad I bought it, especially for $200. So if you're looking to pick up a dip machine, definitely check this out. Of the manufacturers or the sellers that I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, I think there's one or two that have this come in an all black frame. This is the only machine I have that isn't blue, or this is the only piece of equipment I have that isn't blue or black. So there's that like OCD part of me that it kind of bothers me, but at the end of the day, I mean, who gives a shit, right? So, all right, this is what, a 25-minute video, and it probably should have been 10, but I'm not really into brevity, as I'm sure you know. So thanks for sticking around. If you have any questions, throw them in the comments and I'll get back to you. Thanks.